If you're watching this, I'm assuming that you've watched all 5 seasons of The Dragon Prince Mystery of Erebos. If you haven't, I'd recommend hitting that watch later button and coming back after you've seen this amazing show. Let's talk about magic. Hello Future Me is an amazing YouTube channel that discusses story structure, characterization, world building, and has a ton of videos about Avatar, a particular subject of interest on this channel. I was watching Tim's video on The Legend of Korra episodes Beginnings Part 1 and 2, and I was struck by his description of the spirit world. It made perfect sense, but I'd never really thought about it in the way he described it. The spirits of Avatar exemplify a trope called blue and orange morality. Their actions can't really be divided up into good or bad, light and dark. Hence his criticisms of Rava and Batu, the retcon spirits of good and evil, light and dark. The whole appeal of the spirit world is that it's incomprehensible and mysterious. Heibai, for instance, doesn't care whether its actions are good or bad based on any kind of human standard. It protects the forest, for reasons that you don't get to know. It doesn't speak a human language, it makes no overtures at diplomacy, it's just this uninhibited emotional creature that lashes back at a community that doesn't know how it has transgressed upon it. I guess, now that I think about it, I don't think the community in that episode did transgress upon it. Hello, future you can figure it out. The science of bending is similarly hazy, and that's not a flaw, it's a feature. But the Dragon Prince brings something else to the general structure of Avatar's magic system that I find particularly compelling. So, there's just no hiding how much the Dragon Prince draws off of Avatar. Elemental systems in magical worlds are far from new, but the show isn't exactly encouraging you to forget that other show that Aaron Ahaj and Jack DeSena are most known for. Boomerang? Both systems have definitive groups who seem to arbitrarily have weird abilities inspired by nature. Both the elements and the primal sources seem to metaphorically embody the characteristics humans might ascribe to them. There is some emphasis placed on learning how to channel the ideas exemplified in the elemental sources through meditation and life. In Avatar, the elemental bending system seems vaguely biologically inherited, but it's clearly not something that is fully understood. As Tim points out, if you're going to reveal a mystery, the revelation has to be more exciting and satisfying than the feeling of mystery itself. By contrast, the primal sources in The Dragon Prince are a lot more knowable, and there are strengths and weaknesses to that. The sources are sort of anthropomorphized. They're endowed with a sense of intention and a capacity for abstract thought. They craft a kind of ethos, and there's a sort of aesthetic sensibility to the way they communicate their values to humans. Or, things that can talk. The sources embody central, conceptual, singular ideas that inspire the user with the ability to do magic. These central ideas are called arcana, and each arcanum lends the user with a sort of knowledge that lies between words, cannot possibly be ensnared in the normal analog framework of the coarse, bureaucratic, and categorical human mind. This secret knowledge is what allows dragons, elves, and other magical creatures to do primal magic. Alright, Avatar didn't have nearly this amount of explanation for its magic system. Surely the Dragon Prince is demanding that its rules be challenged. An arcanum is a piece of knowledge, therefore anyone can learn it, right? Regardless of from whom they got their genes. Either that or the message is really that humans lack the sensitivity and profundity that magical beings have, but that doesn't really seem right to me. And further, not all magical beings seem to be very sensitive to the sublime truths that the arcana are supposed to teach.
I don't really think about it. I just stand in the light of the full moon, and then there's a feeling like, shwa-wa-wa-wa. And then there's a sort of ting, and then psha! Moon shadow powers!
And sure enough, this assumption is challenged, but not right away. And I think this writing decision is one of the smartest things about the series. So Callum is an adorable little dumbass who's also quite bright, and he has a secret capacity for sensitivity that is usually emergent when he's around a pretty girl. Why does that sound so familiar? Oh yeah, he's literally the Dragon Prince's version of Sokka. I don't think I realized until this show how much Jack DeSena was probably the best actor in Avatar. He just fucking kills it. So, Callum clearly loves Ezran a whole lot, but the fact that his little brother is destined to become king one day, whereas he is destined for nothing in particular, makes him feel inadequate and also kind of lost. When he loses his short lived feeling of having a place in the world and being good at something, he's left completely adrift.
Humans can't do magic.
But I did do magic.
Right. With a primal stone. But then you smashed it, so now you're just a standard human again.
This can't be. I thought magic was my thing. I was good at it.
I mean, he goes up a lightning rod in the middle of a thunderstorm. He's clearly desperate. He's untethered. It is at this stage that Callum uses dark magic for the first time. He's a good person with a good purpose at that moment, but he kills a creature, doing harm to it and himself. If you're very clever, this general series of events might ring a bell for you. Hold that thought. While the history of the Dragon Prince's world doesn't hold the same mystique as Avatar's, there's a real benefit to just how transparent the past is. We see a full conversation between a mage and a dragon that took place hundreds of years before the current story. There's less of a boundary between then and now, the cause and the effect. And if you've been paying attention to the themes of the show, you know that it's about the illusion that history determines our fate. The illusion. The Dragon Prince's iteration of the magic system works brilliantly with the themes and tension of the show in a way that I think is kind of unique. Dark magic is a cruel practice because it forces the mage to kill magical creatures. It was given to humans because they were essentially an underclass in the world they came from. An entire city of humans was burned to the ground because of the actions of one dark mage. Regardless of that mage's actions, this retribution is unnecessarily cruel and inhumane. The way Viren and Claudia see it, dark magic is a mechanism for justice, a deterrent against attack, and also a statement on the worth of humans. How humiliating and devastating to be thrown out of your homeland and sent to fight each other for scraps on barren land. Humans are a displaced population in this show. That's ethnic cleansing. That's literally a war crime. The past feels closer in The Dragon Prince because it is closer. It took centuries for this displaced population to rebuild itself, and all based on the incorrect assumption that humans can't do primal magic. So there's a cycle here. Powerful beings underestimate the less powerful and use overwhelming force to convince them of their own powerlessness. This powerlessness is also worthlessness. There is a sense that a human is more disposable than a magical being. The powerless are terrified, having experienced the might of the powerful, and grasp at whatever they can in order to defend and support themselves. This scares the powerful. They question their superiority and their safety and their security. Vengeance, aggression, and the lust for power are all exposed time and time again to be the results of cowardice. Real bravery can only be demonstrated by having the courage to not escalate. Perhaps to accept a level of violence in order to stop the cycle of violence. Callum's internal conflict cinches this theme very well. The show makes sure that you feel Callum's desperation and aimlessness before allowing him to do primal magic. He even has to do dark magic before he's able to do primal magic. Actually, doing dark magic is what allows him to be able to do primal magic. I'm just realizing that now, so I didn't write about it. Yes, because he does dark magic, he gets sick, he starts having like a crazy fever dream, and that's what puts him in the meditative headspace to slow down his nervous system and put all the knowledge that he's accumulated together. This mind, it's doing something. Not with me being involved, but it's up to some things. By the time Callum learns the Sky Arcana, he has already put himself in a life or death situation for the slimmest chance of being able to do magic. He has learned that his father, a fundamental anchor in his life, has been killed at the hands of magical creatures, and he has killed a living being in order to cast a spell, something he said he would never do. At Callum's lowest, we see that doing dark magic, something that is unambiguously cruel, could be a reasonable last resort. As in, kind people could find a reason to do it. And, well, isn't that exactly the story of humanity's relationship with dark magic? Humans were taught they needed to do dark magic because naturally, no human is capable of understanding the transcendent glory of primal source arcana for reasons. And when humans used dark magic to survive, they were punished. So Ziard, the dark mage from the introduction of the show, has unambiguously been demonstrated to be like monstrous and villainous. And then in that scene where he talks to Sol Regum, he's recontextualized as compassionate and brave and kind. It's kind of an amazing, brilliant scene, just how effortlessly they move away from this caricature. It reframes that introduction in such an amazing, subtle way. It doesn't really draw too much attention to it. This was the propaganda, and this was the actual story. Ziard doesn't have to die in this scene, but he's willing to do so in order to save other people. Callum regrets doing dark magic, but does he regret saving his friends? My next video is going to dig more deeply into the antagonists of the Dragon Prince, but for right now, I just want to say that the Dragon Prince is one of the most unified shows I've ever seen. Let me explain. We generally agree that good stories imitate life, that's what makes them exciting and satisfying. When we talk about themes, what we're alluding to is the specific point or points that the story gives voice to something that we can recognize in our world. For example, one of the themes of Hamlet is the paralyzing inaction that thoughtful people are often plagued by. Hamlet is at once very intelligent and has very high standards of behavior, and while he's wandering around listlessly, unable to square his goals with his moral code, dumber, rasher, and crueler people are running around making a mess of things with no inhibitions. And the worse Hamlet becomes, the more active he becomes. And doesn't that feel true in a way that words alone can't really express? Shakespeare corroborates and solidifies your views of the world through these themes, and that feels really cathartic to watch. Some pieces return to their themes by and by, occasionally. More episodic works have to dip their toes into different things. Shows like Avatar, for instance. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with this. I just want to make that clear. There are a lot of amazing works out there that feel a bit more sprawling. You move through them sort of languorously, seeing new things and learning more about the world. But there are some pieces that just feel like, concentrated diamonds of pure theme. Hamlet is one of them. And then there are these highly conceptual pieces like Ghost in the Shell. They're trying to draw attention to the themes that they're discussing. You don't exactly watch Ghost in the Shell to, have a parasocial relationship, right? That's what I'm saying. But the Dragon Prince returns to the many facets of its theme over and over again in just about every interaction. To be free from violence, you must abstain from violence. The cycle of violence is caused by fear, but being fearful doesn't absolve you from the responsibility of breaking that cycle. There's an unbearable hippie sermon buried under the material of the Dragon Prince. But the story is so focused on showing us how the theme works that we don't feel like we're being lectured at. Instead, we feel like we're being exposed to a profound truth that can't be ensnared in words alone. And maybe this knowledge can imbue us with some amazing power. Is that how we're ending this? No, that can't be right. Ew. I have over 200 subscribers now. I can't be cheesy anymore. Uh, Listen here, you maggot. You better subscribe or I'll say something mean about you in the comments section. Yeah, so you don't want that, do you? I have nothing but purely ironic feelings toward you until I'm big enough to start a Patreon. Then I'll start having purely genuine feelings for you again. See you in the next one. Don't talk about my makeup. Talk about my new tattoo, though. Isn't that lovely? I actually drew it myself. I feel like I'm really hot from this angle. Is that, am I right about that? Or am I delusional? Para no los dos.